Amen. All right, chapter 21 is a really amazing chapter. It's got a lot of good stuff in here. And I'm kind of hoping we don't get through it today so I can give you the last 4 verses of homework and maybe you can bring back some stuff I'm missing out of that, because there's a lot of stuff in those last 4 verses. So anyway, we're going to go through 12 through 27 and see how far we can get. Chapter 21 of Exodus 12. Whoever strikes a man so that he dies shall be put to death. But if he did not lie in wait for him, but God let him fall into his hand, then I will appoint for you a place to which he may flee. But if a man willfully attacks another to kill him by cunning, you shall take him from my altar that he may die. Whoever strikes his father or mother shall be put to death. Whoever steals a man and sells him, and anyone found in him possession of him shall be put to death. Whoever curses his father or his mother shall be put to death. When men quarrel, one strikes another with a stone or a fist, and the man doesn't die but takes to his bed. Then if the man rises again and walks outdoors with his staff, he who struck him shall be clear. Only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall have him thoroughly healed. When a man strikes a slave, male or female, with a rod, and the slave dies under his hand, he shall be avenged. But if the slave survives a day or 2, he is not to be avenged, for the slave is his money. When men strive together and hit a pregnant woman so that their children come out, but there is no harm, the one who hit her shall surely be fined, as the woman's husband shall impose on him, and he shall pay as the judge determines. But if there is harm, then you shall pay life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. When a man strikes the eye of his slave, male or female, and destroys it, he shall let the slave go free because of his eye. And if he knocks out the tooth of his slave, male or female, he shall let the slave go because of his tooth. So, this comes right after the part that we dealt with last week, slavery. You know, this is to keep violence in check between each other. And it says, whoever strikes a man so that he dies shall be put to death. You know, there's some, let me see here. In, I think this is the one I want right here. Yeah, Numbers 35, 30 to 31, it says, if anyone kills a person, the murderer shall be put to death. So that's what's being shown right here. On the evidence of witnesses. Witnesses is plural, so you have to have at least 2. But no person shall be put to death on the testimony of 1 witness. Moreover, you shall accept no ransom for the life of a murderer who is guilty of death, but shall be put to death. Okay, that's pretty plain. There's some people that have a problem with capital punishment. Well, if you murder someone, you should get capital punishment. Okay, especially if it is proven that you have done that, you know. So people that have a problem with that are not really following line. What about the innocent victim that was murdered, or whether they were innocent or not, they were murdered? What about them and their family? Don't they have any justice coming? Okay, in the Bible, you dealt with this stuff now. You didn't go to prison for 5 years until you were, you know, got out on good terms or anything like that. You dealt with it immediately, and there's a life for a life. And so capital punishment is a biblical law.
But isn't there also something about whether or not it was intentional or if it is an accident?
Yes, yeah. We're going to read in the next verse, that if it was an accident, God's going to give you a place to freeze so you'll be saved.
That's what the sanctuary cities were originally set up for.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So there is a difference between an accident and intentionality. They call it today premeditated. Okay, you planned a plot and carried it out. And that's what this is dealing with. All this whole chapter is kind of dealing with, if this happens, it's really not a planned plot. This one actually was something that just happened. You know, you guys got in a fight, and this is how you're going to deal with it. Okay. Numbers 35:33 says, you shall not pollute the land in which you live, for the blood pollutes the land. So when you shed blood, the land gets polluted. And no atonement can be made for the land for the blood that is shed in it, except by the blood of the one who shed it. Okay?
That's dealing with one-on-one violence, not like a nation going to war with another nation.
That's correct. When you are in war with another nation, you're under mandate of the government. And that's not considered murder. Unless there's something like you do something against what is being said to do. Okay, and we have, in our military today, you have perimeters that they want you to abide under. If you're shot at, you can shoot back, but you don't go into a village and just murder women and children. Okay.
And if somebody surrenders and you go ahead and shoot him anyway, then that's murder.
Yeah. So, all right. Verse 13, but if he did not lie in wait for him, but God let him fall into his hand, then I will appoint for you a place to which you may flee. So this is what you're talking about. Okay, lie in wait is sadah, and it means willful, hunt, lie in wait, or chase. So you're actively engaging in trying to put an end to this person, okay? So if he did not lie in wait, then God's going to put a place that he may flee, okay? If it wasn't premeditated, if it was an accident. And these are called cities of refuge. In Numbers 35 is where these are listed, right before these verses I just read. They're called cities of refuge or sanctuary cities. And there were 6 in Israel, 3 on each side of the Jordan River. Okay. Now, the way that worked is if you killed somebody, such as if your axe head flew off and hit somebody in the head and now he's dead, you can run to the nearest sanctuary city and you are protected from death until you had a trial. And when you had your trial, if it was determined that it was not premeditated, you didn't do it willfully, then you had to stay in the city until the high priest died. When the high priest died, what do the priests carry? They carry our sins. They take our sins, and the high priest pictured Christ. And when he died, he took away all of those sins throughout the years that have been loaded up on him, and they're all gone. So that's why the person can now go back to his place of inheritance free from this guilt, because the high priest died and took him away. That pictured Christ. Okay? Now, if this guy was determined that it was premeditated, then he was put to death. Okay? Stoned. Verse 14. If a man willfully attacks another to kill him by cunning, you shall take him from my altar that he may die. Okay, willfully is the word zood, and it means premeditation, anger, proud, and zood is an automatic poetic word. It sounds like boiling water, and that's the anger part. You're heated and zood, okay? The word cunning is ber armah, and it means guile, prudence, wisdom, trickery, treachery, or crafty. Kind of sounds like someone else in Genesis, doesn't it? 3. The snake was more cunning and crafty, and okay, so that's what it follows. But he knew what he was doing, and he planned it. Okay, so you shall take him from my altar. See, even if he is at the altar is the place where you gain mercy. Okay, your offering provides you mercy from that. But in this instance, God says, murder, show him no mercy. He didn't show the people he murdered mercy, so don't show him any mercy. And we have an example of this in 1 Kings 2, 5-6, where Solomon didn't let Joab go. Joab killed some people and it was during time of peace, which is what we were just talking about. If someone already surrenders, they're at peace now. You don't kill them. Joab killed him, and he killed Abner and Amasa. Okay, and David told Solomon, when I die, you kill him. Well, Joab goes here. I'll read this, and you can see where this is going. This is a long one, so I don't have the PowerPoint for it here. But I'll read it, and you can just listen. It says, when the news came to Joab, for Joab had supported Adonijah, although he had not supported Absalom, Joab fled to the tent of the Lord and caught the horns of the altar. And when it was told King Solomon, Joab fled to his tent in the Lord, and behold, he was beside the altar. Solomon sent Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, saying, go strike him down. So Benaiah came to the tent of the Lord and said to him, the king commands, come out. But he said, no, I'll die here. Then Benaiah brought the king word again, saying, thus said Joab, that thus he answered me. The king replied to him, do as he said, strike him down and bury him. And thus take him away from me and from my father's house the guilt for blood that Joab shed without cause. Okay, and then the Lord will bring back his bloody deeds on his own head, because without the knowledge of my father David, he attacked and killed by the sword 2 men more righteous than himself. Abner, the son of Ner, commander of the army of Israel, and Amasa, the son of Jether, commander of the army of Yehuda. So shall their blood come back on the head of Joab and on the head of his descendants forever, but David and his descendants, and for the house of his throne there shall be peace from the Lord forevermore. So this is showing you that even at the altar for murder, you're not going to find mercy. You're going to be put to death. Okay? 15, whoever strikes his father or his mother shall be put to death. What do you guys think about this one? This one doesn't say murder, does it? Okay, you just strike them. You know, this commandment number 5 says honor your father and mother, right?
It don't say anything about you killed them or anything. It just said that you strike them.
That's right. That's right. So God takes that very seriously. Okay, it's really should be and is inconceivable that you're going to kill your parents, right, that you're going to kill someone that brought you into this world. Okay, but it should be inconceivable too that we strike them. Right. They're here trying to teach us. Now I know we do have parents that are
Not good.
yeah, no good. You know, they're following their father, the devil, you know, and those will have to be dealt with in a different way through the court system and everything. But you should not murder your parents, okay? They are placed in the position of God for you to teach you the right way to go. And if they're not teaching you the right way to go, someone above them needs to deal with them, okay? And here's another thing. If we attack our parents, God put them in place, right? He gave us our parents. We're actually attacking God by doing that. We're going right in the face of God who gave us these gifts. 16, whoever steals a man and sells him, and anyone found in him in possession of him shall be put to death. So here kidnappers are going to be put to death. And we've got a lot of that going on today, don't we? What do they call that? Human trafficking.
Saw in the news this morning there was 300 and some kids out of some Christian school in Nigeria.
And these people, when they're found, should be put to death according to biblical law, God's law. Okay. Deuteronomy 24:7 says that if a man is found stealing one of his brothers of the people of Israel, and if he treats him as a slave or sells him, then that thief shall die. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. Now, what's one of the things that you could not treat a fellow Israelite as?
A slave.
A slave. Yeah, and you couldn't sell him. Okay, and here he is going against that. Okay, and this word one of, I highlighted it here. That word is actually nephesh. Anybody remember what nephesh is? Soul. Yeah, soul. If a man steals the soul of his brother, okay, I myself want to even take this a step further and say that, could this be something like tricking him to do something that brings judgment upon him? Kind of like I think about, they warn you at the airports, don't carry nobody's luggage. Well, why? Because these guys are trying to get you to carry their luggage so that if they're caught, you're the one in trouble. Huh?
You'll
Yeah.
get arrested if they catch you with it.
Yeah, you're the one. So I kind of put that in my mind when that's going on. I don't know if that's the right thing or not, but when you're talking about soul, you're talking about spiritual. You can't see soul. You can see the body, but the soul is the person that's actually inside that you can't see, and you're trying to get them to do wrong. Okay, and we do this with bribery. We do this with trickery. All right, 17. Whoever curses his father or his mother shall be put to death. All right, commandment number 5, right in the middle. Okay.
This one says curse, though.
Huh?
This one says curse.
Yeah, this one just says curse.
Right.
You can bring a curse on your parents by doing what they asked you not to do, couldn't you? Okay, they're trying to look out for your well-being, and when you're going against them, that's actually, in God's eyes, just as guilty as being put murder and being put to death. Okay. And Proverbs 20:20 says, if one curses his father or his mother, his lamp will be put out in utter darkness. Wow. And this is a serious commandment.
Yeah.
Okay, and these are after the first 4 that God tells us to honor God, and is don't worship any other idols and all that. Okay. Verse 18, when men quarrel and one strikes the other with a stone or with his fist, and the man doesn't die, but takes to his bed. So what do you guys see here that's kind of stands out?
Means you put him to bed. I mean, you can't work anymore.
Okay, so he's in bed. Now the next verse is going to tell you about for how long, but right now let's just deal with verse 18. When men quarrel and one strikes the other with a stone or a fist. You realize that these are things that are just kind of always with you. You got stones everywhere. You always got a fist in your hand. It's like a heat of the moment thing, So it doesn't necessarily mean premeditation. It just means you did this in anger.
Right.
Okay. When you bring weapons into it, knives, swords, spears, guns,
Stone.
okay, that can be, well, it's a stone's everywhere. You can pick up a stone and hit somebody with it or throw it, and just like your fist. But when you bring weapons into it, you can take that as far as being premeditated, because now you've had time to dig it out and use it.
Thought about it.
Hmm?
You thought about it.
Yeah, you thought about it. I kind of have a problem with the knife part, because I'm thinking about Peter. Peter was defending Christ, and he cut off the soldier's ear. I think it was just kind of like using your foot. It was just a fist, a natural reaction. He just grabbed it and was going to slit his throat to defend Christ, and the guy ducked and his ear goes flying. Okay. I got an issue with that one, but typically, if you're using weapons, you're using something that has more power than just battle to battle, man to man combat. Okay, you're using something that gives you a higher advantage.
But Peter didn't have it in his hand to start with.
He had it
It's a
on.
reaction.
Yeah, he had it on his belt. And this reaction, yeah, and you got to think too, man, the more you use something, the more you're trained to use it, and it becomes a natural reaction. And that may have just been a natural reaction.
Yeah.
Someone attacks, a family member or something where I'm at, the first thing I'm going to do is throw a fist if they're coming at us, So it's just a natural reaction. Okay, so in this instance, if someone strikes another one with a stone or a fence, it's a heated of anger moment. If he didn't die, you wouldn't be charged with murder. Okay, this is going to be treated differently. Okay, and you don't even exact an eye for an eye or tooth for tooth on this one, because it wouldn't be the same. You couldn't match the damage. If you hit him with a rock in the head, how are you going to be hitting the head with a rock in the same amount? You're either going to get hit too hard or too less.
Right.
Okay. So if he's sick for a day and then he's healed, this guy isn't going to be charged with murder. Okay. Verse 19 is, then if the man rises again and walks outdoors with his staff, he who struck him shall be clear. Only he shall pay for the loss of his time and shall have him thoroughly healed. So if he gets healed, then he's just got to pay for his time that he's down and his losses, and then you're back to normal. Okay, he's acquitted of murder. Okay, verse 20. When a man strikes his slave, male or female, with a rod, and the slave dies under his hand, he shall be avenged. Okay. In the world, not in Israel, masters could beat their slaves, and they could even kill them. They're their property. They could do what they wanted to, but not in Israel. God had laws for the slaves, servants, and showed them dignity, and they were human beings, not property, like the
They're still
world
human.
had. Yeah, they're still human. Yeah, and most of the time in Israel, the reason you're in slavery or
Debt,
or servanthood is you were in debt.
or pay off a debt with a slave.
Yeah, you can be a Gentile slave, and Gentile slaves were for life, basically, from what I understand. And these are typically gotten from either war or if someone trades you or something like this. And it really is an act of mercy on the people. You're keeping them from dying and giving them an avenue to serve and not die. So, all right. This word rod is shevet, and it's used for correction, not mutilation. Okay, and anybody knows a verse in Proverbs that talks about the rod?
The rod, spoil the child.
There you go. There you go. You see how all these, when you start looking up the words and everything, they start connecting you to other places, and they give you better understanding of what's going on in the scripture. You guys already know the Bible. You've read it. If you've read it, you know the verses and what it's saying, you can connect these things through other places and start seeing, hey, this is what's going on here. Okay, rods were used to get the sheep before you want them to go. You know, kind of like a goat. A goat had a point on it, I think, but a rod, you know, is kind of like a staff, and you get them to where you want to go. I remember when I was training my dogs, you know, I want them to walk on my left side, and I want them to stay back here. Well, I had one dog kept wanting to get up in front of me all the time. Well, what I did was I had this little stick, and I would just swing the stick in front of me, and every time it would go up in front, it'd kind of get hit in the head, and it didn't like that, so it learned to stay back. And that's what you do with these rods, is you correct people to stay where, animals like sheep and dogs, to get them to stay where they want to go. In the same way with a child, you train him the way he needs to go. You don't take a rod and beat him. That's not what that's saying. You train him which way he should go so that he'll follow the right path. Okay. Slave or a servant brought wealth for the master, right? He is making him wealthy. He's providing for him. And it doesn't make sense that a master would intentionally destroy his income, right? So this is not going to be considered premeditated in the point of a master. Okay. This that we're talking about right here would probably most likely be a Gentile slave, because guess what? Israelites couldn't serve as a slave, okay, or servant. You are to treat them just like another person. You can't treat them like sojourners according to law. Okay. Leviticus 25 states this. It says that if your brother becomes poor beside you and sells himself to you, you shall not make him serve as a slave. He shall be with you as a hired servant and as a sojourner. He shall not. He shall serve with you until the year of Jubilee. Then he shall go out from you, and he and his children with him, and go back to his own clan, and return to the possessions of his father, for they are my servants, who I brought out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as slaves. You shall not rule over him ruthlessly, but fear God. As for your male and female slaves, whom you have, you may buy male and female slaves from among the nations that are with you. You may also buy from among the strangers who sojourn with you in their clans that are with you, who have been born in your land, and they may be your property. You may bequeath them to your sons after you inherit as a possession forever. You may make slaves of them, but over your brothers, the people of Israel, you shall not rule one over another ruthless. Okay? So you can take slaves from the Gentile, the nations, but you can't do it with your brothers. Okay? Well, anybody remember a group of people in Joshua that were made slaves because of what they did?
The guys who stole,
The what?
the guys who, I can't remember.
They plundered stuff they weren't supposed to plunder.
Okay, you're talking about Achan. Yeah, he was killed for doing that. I'm talking about the Gibeonites. See, they were going to go, the Israelites were going up and start attacking them. Well, the Gibeonites put on old sandals and moldy bread, and they went down and said, hey, man, we're from far, far off. We want to be your friends. Got them to make a pact, and they found out they tricked them.
Right.
Well, they made a pact with them. They can't break their covenant now, so now you're going to be slaves. You're going to be woodcutters and carry our water and all that kind of stuff. So they showed them mercy by making them slaves because they made a faulty contract with them.
Well,
And
no,
then-
when Joseph sold,
Yeah, his brother sold him. Yeah. That's a picture of Christ being sold by his brothers, Israel. Okay. All right. Fellow Israelites can only be hired hands. You can only hire them as workers. You can't treat them harshly like slaves. Okay. 21. But if the slave survives a day or two, he is not to be avenged, for the slave is his money. And that word money is silver. Okay. And the word slave is who. And who is he in Hebrew? I know that's kind of weird to understand. It's hard to catch on. Okay. The word he in Hebrew is who. So that where it says for he is his silver, it's showing you that he is the guy's wealth, the guy's money. So why would you want to harm him and kill him so he's got to lay there and not make you money? Okay, it doesn't make sense. But there are some servants that probably need a harsh correction, don't they? They just won't listen. They want to slough off, look at their iPhone all day, and watch TV, whatever. They don't want to do what they've been asked to do. So they may need a little harsh correction. Okay? Verse 22. When men strive together and hit a pregnant woman so that her children come out, but there is no harm, the one who hit her shall surely be fined, as the woman's husband shall impose on him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. And notice here that the focus isn't on the woman. She's the one that got hit, right? But the child is the one that comes out early. The Yelad Yaledahu. Yalad is children, child. Yaledahu is children. It's plural. So God made sure He put that in there, because what if she's carrying twins? Okay. So there's going to be no distinction here between the child that's in the womb or out of the womb. The same word is going to apply. We're the ones, and that Yeledah is used for a child no matter how old he is. Okay? We're the only ones that put stages on children and call them fetus and zygote and embryo and all this other different stuff. Okay? Teen and all that kind of stuff. We, in the Bible, it's just all one word, child. Okay? So if there's no harm to the child, the fine for the harm, the fine is for the premature delivery. Okay, you're gonna have to pay a fine, and guess who gets to make the fine?
The husband.
The husband shall impose on him, and he shall pay as the judges determine, is what mine says. Does anybody else have something different with the judges? Okay. Well, the judges is Elohim usually in the Bible. Here it's using Bephilim, and it means magistrate or judge. And this may mean, since the husband is the one that's making the fine, maybe it's that the judge is the one that has to determine whether it's an excessive penalty or not. Okay, the magistrate or whatever. But here's something interesting, that if you go to the Septuagint, the OXX, it doesn't even have this word judge in there. So if you take the word judges out that's implied after the LXX, then it would just read that the husband will impose on him, and he shall pay as determined. Okay, so it's like the husband gets, so this is what you're going to pay, and he has to do it. Okay.
Mine says court allows.
Yeah, court. They're using that word judges, Bephilim.
That makes me think of civil lawsuit.
Yeah, it would be. But the husband is the one that's going to say how much it costs in this instance. Okay. All right. 23, 24, and 25. I'm going to do all these three together. But if there is harm, then you shall pay life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. Okay, so if there is harm, in this instance, there shall be a just penalty and just harm, for just harm. Okay, if there's death involved, guess what's going to happen? You're going to die. Okay, even if it's a child that you caused to be born early, the penalty needs to match the harm. Okay, life for life. And that's all this stuff is showing you here. I don't think people actually, if someone accidentally or intentionally, whatever, poke somebody's eye out, that they had to lose their eye. I don't think that actually happened, but I think the whole point of this is showing you that the just payment needs to be enough that compensates for what this person lost. Okay, eyes are valuable to us. You know, I remember some people here a few weeks ago that didn't want to trade their eye for $1 million. Or both of them for $1 billion, okay? They're precious to you, and you need those in order to sufficiently get around yourself. But so is your teeth. You got more teeth in your eye. You know, back then, I don't think people had all their teeth like we have today when we're 50 and 60 years old, okay? I think they lost them a lot earlier because they didn't have the hygiene that we got today, and Crest toothpaste, and you know, I don't don't even know if they brushed their teeth back then. Do you guys? All
And
right.
then the sugar that we consume.
Yeah, we got a lot of sugar we eat. Yep.
Don't know.
All right. If we go to Leviticus 24:17, that's where this eye for an eye, tooth for tooth stuff is. And I'm just going to throw in here too that since Roe v. Wade, we've killed 60 million unborn babies in this nation. That is a lot. Okay, that's more than the Holocaust.
That was in the
Huh?
70s, wasn't
Yeah,
it? Somewhere in there.
yeah, somewhere right around in there. That's a lot. Okay, God considers that murder. And for us to do this daily, it amazes me that we have not been judged yet. Okay? He judged the Israelites when they would take their baby and put them on the god hands of Moloch. That's what they were doing. And God judged them for that. Okay? Okay, here, look at verse 24 versus 25. These ones in 24 are something of that you're going to lose, physical loss. And the ones in 25 are actually more like wounds that will heal. Okay, you may have a scar, but you're going to be healed from those. The other ones, you've lost something forever. So, all right, verse 26. When a man strikes the eye of his slave, male or female, and destroys it, he shall let the slave go for free because of his eye. What do you guys think about that one?
It's fair.
It is fair, isn't it? The guy now has lost his eye. Now he owes you nothing anymore because he's relieved of his slavery to you. You took his eye. Okay, you get no more income from him. 27. If he knocks out the tooth of his slave, male or female, he shall let the slave go because of his tooth. Same thing. Okay, teeth were important back then. You know, that's how you ate. They have value even though you only have two eyes, but you got how many teeth? 24 or something like that, or 18 or
32.
22?
32.
I don't want to sit here and count them. Yeah, you probably got what, 7 per side or something like that, or 8. So yeah, 21, 40, 42. I don't know.
But if you go back to what we hear in the past, the Indians, the women chewed the leather to make it soft. So therefore a tooth knocked out would be
Yeah.
damage to her work category.
How'd you like to chew on leather all day? Wow. All right. Matthew 21, 5:21, 22 says, "You have heard it said that it was said of those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you, everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council, and whoever says you fool will be liable to hellfire." Wow. Kind of puts a new perspective on those people who cut you off in traffic, doesn't it?
Right.
I'm just guilty of that last week. Stupid idiot. Oh, yeah, I'm guilty of hellfire now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. God's going to see our inner thoughts. And we all need mercy, don't we? So we should all show mercy. We should all allow people to make mistakes, because guess what? We make mistakes. All right?
Terrible with
Huh?
that. Terrible with that.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. All right. All right. So here we just dealt with man killing man and the harshness of anger towards men. Now we're going to deal with animals killing animals. Okay. This is what this pictures. There's only 4 verses here, but there's a lot here. And I hope I can get through it in 15 minutes because this is really cool. And I think there's two pictures going on here. I'm missing a little bit of pieces in each one to make this come together right, but let's just deal with it and see what happens. All right, when an ox gores a man, let's see. For some reason I didn't have. All right, I'm gonna have to go up and read. All right. When an ox gores a man or a woman to death, the ox shall be stoned, and its flesh shall not be eaten. But the owner of the ox shall not be liable. But if the ox has been accustomed to gore in the past, and its owner has been warned, but has not kept it in, and it kills a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and its owner shall be put to death. If a ransom is imposed on him, then he shall give for the redemption of his life whatever is imposed on him. If it gores a man's son or daughter, he shall be dealt with according to this same rule. If the ox gores a slave, male or female, the owner shall give their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. All right, verse 28. When an ox gores a man or a woman to death, the ox shall be stoned, and its flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall not be liable. What do you think this is meaning?
Don't let your animals hurt somebody.
Okay. How does that relate today?
We got a dog.
Yeah, dogs. We got big ones with the dogs, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay. If your dog hurts someone, guess who's liable?
You are.
Okay, you are. But now, if you knew that dog had done that in the past and you still didn't keep it in, you've got a harsh punishment coming. Number one, that dog should be put down. Okay? People got a problem. Oh, this dog's just doing what he needs to do, what he does. That's just what he does. Doesn't matter. Human life is more important than animal life.
Not to everybody.
Huh?
Not to everybody.
Everybody.
Not
Yes.
to everybody. Not to everybody.
What's not to everybody?
The dogs are more important to people nowadays.
Yeah, well, they've got their understanding wrong, don't they?
Right.
Okay. It needs to be in line with what God says. Man is supposed to rule over the animals, not the animals rule over man. Okay. So human life is more valuable than the animals, and if the animal kills a man, it's going to get put to death. It should, whether you got a problem with that or not. Okay. If it has man's blood on its horns, it's stained and has to be put to death. Okay. But it says here, if an ox gores a man or a woman to death, the ox shall be stoned, and its flesh not eaten, but the owner shall not be liable. Okay, now there's a difference between this verse and the next one, but why shouldn't he be liable if the ox just gores someone?
Because he has no control over the animal itself.
Okay, and he didn't know. This is a surprise. He's never done it before. Why would he think he's doing it? This is the first time.
If he knew it was done it before, then he would be liable.
That's right. That's what the next verse is going to be stating. If you knew it before, you are responsible just as the ox is, because you didn't keep it confined.
And I could see where some people might, like if they had a dog, might train them to do that.
Yes. Well, then they would be responsible at that
Yeah.
point. Okay. So why not eat the meat?
Maybe
The
they're
animal
talking about
might
something.
be demon possessed. No, literally, in every herd of animals, there's always one that is a tough one to deal with.
Okay.
And usually those get sent away.
Okay. All right. All right.
Like when they have a baby calf or something, and you're trying to doctor the calf or put an ear tag in it, they'll try to take you. But most of them don't do that, some of them do.
Would they be trying to protect the calf in that instance?
Yeah, but there are some that just can't be calmed down.
Okay.
And it's literally like they're demon possessed.
Huh, okay. And what were you gonna say, Clella?
Well, kind of in that regard, if you have a cow or a steer or whatever that's just not controllable, you're gonna send it to the sale barn. You're not
Yeah.
gonna take a hit on it. And in this case, they're saying don't gain money for it. Don't, because I would send one to the sale barn. That's
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
But they're saying don't even eat it. Don't profit from it.
Okay, keep that in mind because that's going to be coming up in the last 4 verses.
Okay.
The prophet cometh. Okay, so very good. This one here, it shall not be eaten, and I think it's because, well, here's some instances that the commentators give. It says because it bears the sin of murder. Well, it does, but that's not the reason why here. And some say that, well, it wasn't bled in a kosher manner, so the Israelites couldn't eat it. It was killed by something else, and it's a carcass. It's not, you didn't bleed it out without the blood, so you can't eat it. Well, comes from Ellicott, and he's kind of right too, but that's not the reason why. Okay, and then there's another guy, Lang, that says that it's become a curse because of man's death, and that's the right thing here, because it became harem, which is devoted to God for destruction. Okay, it has blood on its horns, just like man has blood on his hands, and it now has been devoted to death by God. That's why. That's the real reason why. But an Israelite couldn't eat it anyway because of these other reasons that were given. That it wasn't bled right, number one. But guess what? It still had profit to him, and we're going to see that coming up in a little bit later.
What about the aspect of a person benefiting by a wrong?
Well, that actually is a very good point. Let me ask you a question. Did we ever benefit from somebody doing something wrong to Christ? Keep that in mind when we get to the end verses here. Okay. But yeah, that actually is another good point. You shouldn't benefit from someone else's demise. All right, so this ox shed blood, man's blood. Now it's devoted for destruction. And the reason that the other ones ain't right, because when we get down to 34 and 35, we're going to see why. Okay. The owner is acquitted of murder because he didn't partake in the murder. He wasn't responsible. He didn't do it. It just happened by the animal that is his. But he still has to deal with it and pay for it. Okay. 29. But if the ox has been accustomed to gore in the past and its owner has been warned but has not kept it in, and it kills a man or woman, the ox should be stoned and its owner shall be put to death. Why?
Because you're eating.
Because you knew and you didn't take precautions. You're negligent. Okay. If you were known that this thing did it in the past, you should have been keeping it confined. You should have been keeping people away from it. But since you didn't, then you're just as guilty as this person's death now as the ox. Okay. 30. If a ransom is imposed on him, then he shall give for the redemption of his life whatever is imposed on him. Now this word ransom that's used here, does anybody else have something different if a ransom is imposed?
What verse?
30.
Mine just says if it's imposed a sum of money.
Okay. This word is kofer, and it means cover, ransom, satisfy, redemption, or atone. Okay. So if atonement is imposed on him, ransom or redemption or covering, then he shall give for mine says redemption, but I think we should have a different word here, for his life, whatever is imposed on him. Does anybody have a different word in the second? The word redemption? Does anybody have something different on that one?
Redeem.
Redeem.
That redemption, life, whatever it
Okay. Well, he is going to have his life redeemed, but this is a different word. It's pidyom, and it comes from padah, and it means ransom. So he's going to ransom his life. This is an instance here that he's going to be able to ransom his life for this, from capital punishment, from being killed.
From the ox. We're still talking about that, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he could go into slavery to pay off that debt.
Yeah. Okay.
It makes me think of Jesus' redemption of us.
Yeah. In what way?
In what way?
Yeah. That's why these words are being used.
He paid the debt, so we wouldn't have to.
Yeah. We were the ones supposed
Go
to
into
die,
judgment.
but he paid our debt and ransomed us. We have him for a ransom, and he gave us redemption. Okay. So if the ox is known to gore people in the past and it's not contained, verse 29 is saying that the man is to be put to death. Okay, you didn't protect human life. You're just as guilty. But guess what? There's an option, since the man was negligent, but not the murderer, his life can be ransomed with a price. Okay? Tie that to Christ. We weren't the ones that actually murdered him, but we're guilty because of our sin. So in essence, we kind of are, but we're going to have a ransom. Here's something else too. If this person is guilty of killing someone's family member, who's supposed to take care of that?
Kinsman Redeemer.
The kinsman redeemer, also known as the
First.
avenger of blood, who is typically the firstborn. Yes.
If you give the keys to your car to a teenager, knowing that he wasn't really qualified to drive, he goes out there and has a wreck and kills somebody, and he survives, the parents is guilty.
Yeah. And you're right, because they did something that was, they're negligent. They let him do something that was wrong, and someone's lost their life for it. Yeah. Yep. So the avenger of blood is probably going to be the one that imposes this fine on this person. Okay. He is going to set a price, and this person is going to have to pay for it. He may have to go into debt and be a slave until that fine's paid. Okay. So here's an appropriate verse that goes with that. Psalms 49, 5-9. Why should I fear in times of trouble when the iniquity of those who cheat me surround me? Those who trust in their wealth and boast for the abundance of their riches. Truly, no man can ransom another or give God the price of his life, for the ransom of their life is costly and can never suffice, that he would live forever and never see the pit. What's the pit? Hell, grave. Keep that in mind. That's coming up. Okay, Mark 8, 36 and 37. For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? For what can a man give in the return for his soul? Your soul is invaluable. So any price you have to pay to get that redeemed is worth it. Okay? What are you going to give for your soul? That should be our number one priority, is to be saved from our sins so that we can be redeemed back to God. Okay, otherwise you're going to spend eternity apart from your Redeemer. All right, now this is the only time a person in the Bible is given a capital offense. He's supposed to die, but he can get redeemed out of it by paying a fine. Pictures Christ. 31, if it gores a man's son or daughter, he shall be dealt with according to the same rule. Okay, this is showing you that it doesn't matter about age or gender, you're going to have the same rule applied. 32, if the ox gores a slave, male or female, the owner shall give to their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned.
Just like Jesus. Sold for 30 shekels of silver.
Ah, that's exactly right. Okay. Slave is abed, it means servant or slave. And the master has lost a servant now that provided income, right? The Gentile slave does not have an avenger of blood. So a price is set for him, and that price is 30 shekels of silver. And you've already tied it to Christ, okay? He was the suffering servant. He was the servant that did what God wanted him to do. He was the servant of God. We talked about that earlier in the chapter. He was the one that pierced his ear and wanted to remain a servant because the master gave him a wife and children. Okay, he's the servant that this is all pointing to. And the standard valuation for a servant is 30 shekels of silver. We saw that he was sold for 30 pieces of silver. Okay, God has set the price for a servant in his word. And okay, and since you guys already know why this is here, let's see, where am I at? Psalm 26, I don't have that on here. Then one of the 12, whose name was Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, what will you give me if I deliver him over to you? And they said 30 pieces of silver. And from that moment, he sought opportunity to betray him. So Jesus was the servant that was sold. There are many verses that'll tell you that Jesus was a servant. I'm not going to have time to run through them all, but I'm just going to give you one. For every son of man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. So you see how all this is tying, this whole chapter we're dealing with is tying to him. And I really want to do one more here before we end. Let me just put this together real quick. Here we see that in verses Matthew 27, 3 to 10, the betrayer sold Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. And then he realizes he sinned, and he gives the 30 pieces of silver back to the temple. Well, the priests couldn't use that because it's blood money. So they decided to buy a field, the field of blood, and they took the 30 pieces of silver, and the price of him whom a price had been set by the sons of Israel. They had set this price on Christ as a servant for 30 pieces of silver, and they bought this field. This is where the field of blood is. This is where Judas supposedly hung himself, they believe. And let's see, Jesus is the servant, and check this out. Here's another view of that. I think that's more modern. This building right here is something new that's been added there. So there are buildings starting to go in down there, but for 2,000 years, it's been barren, just like it says in Scripture. Let's see here. Psalms 22. Many bulls encompass me, strong bulls of Bashan surround me, and they open wide their mouths like a ravening war and roaring lion. Okay, Israel was sold for the price of a slave, and so they were sold and they were scattered. Israel sold Christ for the price of a slave, and then they were sold into the other nations and became slaves. And now the servant has become their master, and they have become his servants. Okay, and they are being redeemed by the one who they sold off for a price of a slave. God is still going to redeem them. Okay, and Isaiah 52:3 says, "For thus says the Lord, you were sold for nothing, and you shall be redeemed without money." And they have been. Okay. I want to give you guys some homework here. What does a pit mean? What does it point to? We just dealt with that.
Hell,
Hell or a grave. More specifically the grave, but that is, it'll end up in hell. What does ox and donkey picture in the Bible?
Gentiles,
Okay, donkeys picture Gentiles. Who do ox picture?
workers,
Huh?
slaves.
I think ox picture probably Israelites. Okay, you got Jew and Gentile. That's what I kind of am leaning on right now. But ox also, we just read that scripture here. What does this one mean? Many bulls encompass me, strong bulls of Bashan surround me. Who are these bulls surrounding Christ at the cross? They are the leaders, the priests, and the Roman soldiers and the leaders. So bulls and ox can typically also mean they are your leaders. Okay, one put in authority above you. So keep that in mind when we do these next verses. We're going to open these up next week. This is really cool. I'm still wrestling with this. I'm glad we didn't get to this one. See if I can't come up with some better understanding here for next week. Let's see if you guys can't figure out what's going on here. What God's trying to show us in this ox, donkey falling in a pit. You have to give the owner money. And if not, then you have to sell it, take the money. Okay, see what all that is picturing and see if you guys can't give me some pictures that I ain't seeing. All right?
Read it. 33 to 36.
Yep, 33 to the end, and then we'll be in chapter 22 next week. All right, anybody like closing prayer?